Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to work on the add to cart functionality for the variable products. Shopify allows up to 3 variants for the product, and we have already created the structure for our swatches. Now we need to create the logic to retrieve the correct variant ID based on the selected options. So let's get started. So let's go to our code editor, and you can see we have our swatches here. So I have added a class here, variant options, and we can start creating our logic now. Here we need two things. First, all the selected values, and second, all the product variations. Now first, let's create a logic to get all the selected options. For that, I'm going to create a function. Let's say get selected option. Okay, so here I'm going to create an empty array first. Let's say let options, it would be an empty array. Now let's get the selected value from here. So we can use, let's say, let option groups, which would be equal to document dot query selector all, and here we are going to use product options, and in that option we have the radio button that are checked. We can loop through this option groups. We can use dot for each, and here we can create an anonymous function and pass a variable here, let's say input, and we can use option dot push, and here we are going to push input dot value, and here at last we can return our options array. Now let's print the output of this get selected options. So we can use console.log and pass the function here get selected options. Let's save this and check on the front end what we have. Let's refresh the page, go to the inspector, and in console let's refresh the page again. I have an error here, which is options groups is not defined. I think I have a typo here. So let's copy this and paste that here. Now let's save this and refresh on the front end. We will have the selected options here. Okay, now you can see we have the selected options here, small and black. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is get all the product variations. So for that, we can declare a global product object. So let's go on the top and declare a global product object here, which would be window.product, and we are assigning the current product in JSON format. Okay, we can use this global object in our JavaScript. We can also print all the product variants here. Here you can see we have all the product variations. Now we need to create the logic to get the variant ID from using these two arrays. So here let's create a function. Let's say get variant ID, and for that we need selected options. Let's pass a variable here. Let's say selected options. So here we also need this window.product.variant. Let's create a variable. Let's say product variants, which would be equal to our window.product.variants. Okay, so now we can loop through this. Let's use for, and we can use let I is equal to 0 and I less than equal to product variant dot length and I plus plus. Let's declare a variable. Let's say variant, which would be equal to the product variant and the current index. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to make some condition to get the variant ID. So let me paste the code here. So this is the code that we are going to use to get the variant ID. I'll explain this line by line once everything is done. If we have the variant ID, then return this variant ID, otherwise return null if no matching is found. Okay, So now let's check if our this get variant id function is working properly. Okay, so let's declare a variable here, so which would be selected options, and this selected option will have all the values that are returned from this function. So now let's print console.log and pass this get variant id function, and in that function we are going to pass these get selected options. Okay, now let's see what we have. So here in this loop we can also write console.log to get the variants. Okay, so let's save this and refresh. Now here you can see we have an object here. So this object is this variant, and if you see we have option 1 and option 2 here. Option 3 is null because we have only 2 variants like size and color. If there is one more, let's say variant, let's say size, then we will have this option 3 is equal to whatever the selected value would be there. So we have used this option 1 and option 2 in our code. You can see option 1, option 2 and option 3. So this option 3 we don't have that variant, so this condition will not work here. Okay, so and this function has returned the variation id that we need for our add to cart functionality, and these two are the option that we have print previously. Let us take a look how this all work. Okay, suppose we have these 3 variants: variant id, size, color and material. For size we have option 1, for color we have option 2, and for material we have option 3 as we seen here, option 1, option 2 and option 3. So let's take an example. So we selected size small, color green and the material polyester. Then our selected options, like the values returned from this get selected options, would be small, green and polyester. Okay, so our this function will return this. Okay, so the next function that we used is get variant id, and here we have created some conditions. Okay, so let's elaborate this. Okay, so we have this. Our first selected option is option 0, which would be here small, and our variant option 1 is equal to small, as we can see. So this condition returned true. In the next iteration of this loop, our selected option would be 1, as we have here, and our variant dot option 2 is green. Option 2, here we have black, let's say here in this case it's green. Okay, so this condition will also become true, and the same is the case with selected option 3, which is polyester, and here in this option 3 will be polyester, and this condition will match, and on the basis of these 3 conditions our variant id is returned, which would be this in this case. So this is how all this works. So it's a bit tricky, but if you explore, that will be easy for you to understand what exactly is going on here. So the next thing that we are going to do here is we can use these 2 functions when we change the variants. So let's do that. So here we can use document.query selector product variant, and here we can use for each, and we can use anonymous function here, and in this function pass radio input, and let's add an event on this radio input. Let's say radio input dot add event listener, and we are going to use change event here and create anonymous function, and here let's create a variable, let's say selected options, so which would be the values returned from this function. Okay, so let's do that. Now let's create one more variable. Let's say variant id, and this would be the get variant id function, and here we are going to pass the selected options, this variable. Okay, here we can write, let's say console.log variant id. So let's save this. So I'm going to remove all the console.log statements from my code. Let's save this and refresh on the front end. If we click on this radio button, you can see we have our variant ID here. If you click on medium, you can see our variant ID is dynamically generated from the option that we select. Okay, so we have some code here. Let me remove this. So this is this code that we use to explain the functionality, and you can refresh this. Now we have everything here. Now the last thing that we can do is, let's go to our product form, and here let's make it text and use this ID in this function. Let's say document dot get element by ID, and the ID would be ID, and we are going to assign the value which would be equal to this variant ID. To that, let's save this and check. So currently we have this ID. If we print this, you can see our ID changes. So when we click on any of the radio button, you can see the ID here changes. So we can use this ID in our add to cart form, and we will do this in our next video. So this is it for this video. If you found this video informative and helpful, please like, share and subscribe to my channel for more Shopify theme development tutorials. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.